Lord, I thank you for the opportunity. Bless my people. And all I ask is bless them with the love they're going to need and the test of endurance they're going to have because they're going to attack them, Lord. Lord, I love you and I obey you. Amor del Rey. Amor del Rey.
Yo, what's good, my niggas? Y'all know what the fuck it is, nigga. Young motherfucking man, I'm back down once again, nigga. King motherfucking love, niggas. No love, bitch. You ain't never heard a king brother like me. You ain't never had a king's heart like me. You ain't never sit up on a throne like me. Niggas from across the park won't fight me. You ain't never heard a king brother like me. You ain't never had a king's heart like
The almighty Latin Kings. This gang is the oldest and most dangerous one in Chicago and has made its marks around cities not only in the nation, but the world as well. So what's really cool about the Latin Kings is that they did not start off as a vicious street gang, but rather as a group that was meant to protect the people from their community. Their beginnings trace back to the 20s and the 30s in New York City, where Puerto Rican immigrants started several gangs and political movements to help unify those who had been discriminated against for minorities. Some of these groups included the Young Lords, the FLN, and the Noble Knights. The Noble Knights is thought to have the most ties with the Latin Kings. So after moving to Chicago, Ramon Santos, also known as Papa King, founded the Latin Kings in the late 1950s with 4 of his friends, Jose Rivera, Eddie Rodriguez, Joe Gunn, and Albert Hernandez. They created this gang out of Papa's King, residents on the corner of Wabash and 18th in Chicago. However, the gang began its main faction in Humboldt Park after Papa King relocated there. It has been said that Papa King was only between the ages of 8 and 12 when he created the gang, and this is truly incredible.
Calibre de este lado, con doble K, oyeron. This is the fucking remix, bitch. Prendo uno, mato uno, Latin King. Prendo uno, mato uno, Amor del Rey. Prendo uno, mato uno, Latin King. Prendo uno, mato uno, King.
Throughout all 50 states, as well as in Mexico, Ecuador, Peru, Spain, Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, and even Europe, the Latin Kings all have the same rules to follow, as well as the same code words for certain things. They all follow the codes of kingism, which is essentially a set of rules that all members must obey or they will be punished.
This means I'm willing to die for you. This is a 3-point crown, which is love, honor, and respect that you give your brothers.
Punishments are extremely brutal and many times come with no mercy. The ultimate punishment is called a gold crush. Essentially, 10 to 12 gang members beat you until whoever is in charge says it's okay to stop.
That was an example of what happens when a member breaks the rules. You may end up with a bat to the head or even a bullet to the knee. Either way, the members will make sure you pay for what you've done. In terms of organization, the Latin Kings are one of the most organized gangs in the world. The ranking system for the Kings is quite simple. The highest rank is the Corona, which is the national leader of the gang. During the gang's up-and-coming years, the Corona was Gustavo Colon, aka Lord Gino. He's been in prison, serving life, since 2000. Lord Gino built the gang from the ground up while behind bars by relaying information through his wives, Lady Q and then later Marisol Rodriguez. However, with Lord Gino moved to total confinement in a prison in Colorado, there was a call for a new Corona. That new leader would be Agustin Zambrano, who, in 2012, was sentenced to 60 years in prison for numerous charges, including racketeering, drug trafficking, and conspiracy. The next highest ranking is the region officer, who is in charge of about 15 to 20 chapters, but the nation officer is the one who actually runs those chapters. Incas are the ones who run each chapter, while the cacica, or chief, are second in command. Every chapter has an enforcer to make sure everyone is abiding by the rules, and then the last ranking is the soldiers, which consists of the regular gang members who have no specific role.
One interesting fact about the Latin Kings is that unlike most other gangs, women are allowed to be members. Since the mid-1970s, women have been allowed in the gang, and according to many members, they are just as gruesome and oftentimes more gruesome than the men. The gang's colors, black and gold, have special meaning to all the members. The gold represents the sun, while the black represents the darkness against all the enemies. Some of the key words that they use include: trick is a snitch, which refers to someone that rats on another member to the police. Running the deck means controlling a section of the prison. Tumbase is a stick-up, which refers to going to someone's house and robbing them, and oftentimes trashing the place. A violation is a 3-minute gang initiation where they brutally beat you up. Crown stripped is basically getting kicked out of the gang. And their slogan is Amor de Rey, which means love of a king or a king's love. Chicago, Illinois, the motherland of the Latin Kings. With approximately 25,000 members in the city of Chicago alone, it serves as the largest breeding ground for Latin Kings. This violent street gang was created in the west side of Humboldt Park, but is now all over Chicago and many neighborhoods. From meth to cocaine to marijuana, the Latin Kings run the drug scene in Chicago. This is in part due to 3 things that they value the most: money, power, and drugs. They sell the drugs, many times out of legitimate businesses, in order to obtain money, which in turn gives them power. It is a vicious cycle that keeps this gang rolling. Not only do they make money by selling drugs, but they also make fake green cards as well. For immigrants coming into the United States who have no chance of becoming legal anytime soon, the Kings make fake green cards and sell them to these people. All of these acts are not just in Chicago, but are typical in other cities as well. However, Chicago is simply the best example because of its importance to the gang. In short, many of Chicago's neighborhoods have been overtaken by this vicious gang, and they have no intent of leaving.
New York City is considered to be the second most important city for the Almighty Latin King and Queen Nation. It was essentially a branch of the Almighty Latin King Nation in Chicago. In 1986, Louis Philippe, aka King Blood, created the Almighty Latin King and Queen Nation of New York State while serving time in the Collins Correctional Institution. By the early 90s, the gang had spread from the New York prisons to the streets. In 1994, the Latin Kings were the largest and most dangerous gang in New York City. Members were participating in murder, arson, drug dealing, rape, and even kidnapping. Basically anything illegal you could think of, they were doing. In 1996, Antonio Fernandez, aka King Tone, had become the leader of the Latin Kings of New York, and his approach of running the gang was much different than other leaders. He wanted to create the image that the Latin Kings of New York was an organization not meant to cause harm, but rather to help protect the community through unity and education. He did this by using mass propaganda, but the NYPD took notice of this and launched a joint investigation that led to the arrest of him as well as over 100 other members of the Latin Kings.
Yeah.
Alright, so even though the Latin Kings had positive intentions of overcoming racism and unifying the Latin American community, they ended up going down a path of violent criminal activity. This brutal street gang is a perfect example of a good idea gone wrong. In the mid-20th century, Latin American immigrants were facing heavy racism and were, in a way, shunned from the rest of the society. They needed something to unite them together, and the Latin Kings ended up filling that void. However, they did not fill that void in the way that they intended. Instead of helping the community, it hurt it. Many Latin American communities all across the nation now live in fear of this violent gang, instead of looking to it as a sense of unity. Whether it's murder, rape, or dealing drugs, the Latin Kings have experience in all of it. They are merciless and vicious, to say the least. They show no piety not only to rival gangs, but to their own members in many cases. The stories of their brutality and illegal behaviors are far from rumors. Many investigations have been carried out which have to the arrest of hundreds of members. The terrible reign of the Latin Kings over the streets of many cities has been well documented, yet there is seemingly no way to get rid of them. They are going to continue to recruit men and women of all ages and terrorize cities across not only the United States, but the entire world.
Yeah. For those of you that want to know what we're all about, it's like this, y'all.
Who the hell is he anyway? He never really talks much, never concerned with status, but still leaving them starstruck. Humble through opportunities given despite the fact that many misjudge him cause he makes a living from writing raps. Put it together himself, now the picture connects. Never asking for someone's help or to get some respect. He's only focused on what he wrote, his will is beyond reach. And now it all unfolds, the skill of an artist. This is 20% skill, 80% fear, be 100% clear, cause Ryu was ill. Who would've thought he'd be the one that set the West in flames? And I heard him wreck it with the crystal method, name of the game. Came back, dropped Megadeth, took him to church. I like Bleach, man. Ryu had the stupidest verse, this dude is the truth. Now everybody giving them guest spots and stocks through the roof. I heard he fucking with that stock.
This is 10% luck, 20% skill, 15% concentrated power